So Diana Taurasi might in fact be coming out of retirement. And you guys might be thinking, oh, I'm crazy. There's no way Diana Taurasi comes out of retirement. I'm telling you guys, I've seen something today and I'm like, I did a little bit of research into this. She actually might.
Rumors are shaking the basketball world as whispers grow louder that Diana Taurasi, one of the greatest players ever, might be preparing a shocking return. Not for the WNBA and not for a ceremonial farewell season, but for the mysterious and controversial Project B League that has already disrupted the entire landscape.
If you guys look at Project B, again, I'm hawking their following. So they then went and followed, by the way, if you guys don't know, they had only followed up to a point. They were only following like their partners, then the players they signed, and then they followed a whole bunch of other players. But they were really specific. They followed the exact same players on Instagram and Twitter.
Fans, critics, and even WNBA veterans are scrambling to understand what is bubbling beneath the surface. And the deeper you look, the stranger it gets, because the clues suggesting her comeback aren't random at all. They look coordinated, deliberate, and almost impossible to ignore.
But if you guys didn't read this here. However, she didn't have a definitive answer to whether she'll play in the new Project B Basketball League slated to debut, with Middle East multi-billion-dollar 5v5 league will feature 6 teams with 11 players. It's an interesting proposition, Taurasi said. I think the beauty of sport is having opportunities all over the world to play sport you love. And obviously we have it with the WNBA, we have that with Unrivaled, we have it with Europe. The potential of having a league in Saudi Arabia seems unconventional, but at the same time seems like perfect in a lot of ways. Yeah, the league's not going to be in Saudi Arabia, but the fact that she basically didn't say no, she didn't say no. She did not say she wasn't playing. Which means the likelihood is that there's a chance.
The first sign that something unusual was happening came straight from Project B's social media activity. At first, the league only followed investors, executives, and the initial group of players they had openly recruited. Everything was structured, controlled, predictable.
It's not just a bunch of random players. They followed the exact same group of 5 or 6 players on Instagram or Twitter.
But then something changed. They suddenly began following a very specific cluster of legendary figures across both Instagram and Twitter. Not random players, not rising stars, but the icons. The ones whose involvement would instantly legitimize the league. And right in the middle of that list sat Diana Taurasi's name, raising eyebrows everywhere. People assumed at first that maybe Project B just wanted her around the league as a voice, a mentor, a media personality, or even a ceremonial ambassador. But the pattern didn't match that. They weren't casually following her.
And then the last 3 following. Chennai, I would assume, first of all, a lot of people thinking Chennai might be working the media man. Chennai might play. Chennai might play, you know. Lauren Jackson, I don't think Lauren Jackson has fully retired yet, has she? Like, her knee stopped working. But, like, let's not forget, she played in the last Olympics. But they followed Diana Taurasi, and I thought maybe Diana Taurasi is going to be working at this. She's going to be there on commentary. She's some involvement.
They were following the exact same group of legends on both platforms at the exact same time. Cynthia Cooper, Lauren Jackson, Tina Thompson, Cheryl Miller, Alana Beard. Every follow felt intentional, like a coordinated signal rather than an accident. And that alone was enough to send fans digging for answers.
Like, there is a chance that Diana Taurasi will be playing basketball at 44 years old. Professionally. And I thought she was still alright in her last WNBA season. Like, she was still a starting level player. Like, I think a lot of people were like, oh yeah, could the Fever maybe convince her to come over as like a vet for Caitlin for a year? She wasn't playing like a max contract level player, but she was still playing like a starter.
Then the real twist hit. Taurasi was directly asked if she would play in Project B, and instead of shutting the question down or laughing it off like most retired players would, she left the door wide open. She didn't say no. She didn't say she was done forever. She didn't even pretend it was unrealistic. She treated it like a real possibility. That single moment flipped everything. Because once an athlete of her status refuses to rule something out, it means negotiations, interest, or at least serious thought is already happening behind the scenes.
It is a real interesting one. I have to say, like, you've got Taurasi here who has been retired and is maybe, I think most people said that she was the GOAT prior to Aja winning another MVP and another ring. And Aja's far from done. I think you'd be a crazy person to bet against Aja winning another one. But Taurasi potentially coming back to play basketball. And again, it's not crazy because she's been asked about it and she did not deny.
This is where the WNBA world started buzzing. Why would a 44-year-old legend even consider returning unless the offer was massive, meaningful, and game-changing? Why would a retired star, already cemented as a GOAT, keep herself in game shape? And why is Project B following her in perfect unison across every platform? Something is happening. And the more you connect these early pieces, the clearer the picture becomes. But this is only the beginning.
They're following the exact same people on both platforms. This is not accidental. This is not just, oh, we're following these random players. They're following people on different platforms at the same time. The likelihood is that there's some involvement with Diana Taurasi. And by the way, the names, if you've got Cynthia Cooper, if you've got Tina Thompson, both the Woomakays, Lauren Jackson, Diana Taurasi, Unrivalled's fucking dead. Even if these aren't involved in a playing sense, Unrivaled is fucking dead.
Once people noticed Project B's coordinated follows, the next major clue came from the roster of powerful investors tied to the league. These aren't casual names or low-profile backers. We're talking about major figures with global reach, financial muscle, and deep ties to both sports and entertainment. Sloane Stephens, Novak Djokovic, Steve Young, Candace Parker, and several unnamed tech giants whose involvement suggests that this league isn't just a side project. It's a billion-dollar vision designed to reshape women's basketball at the highest level. What caught everyone off guard wasn't just the list of investors, but how deliberately they were being revealed. Project B wasn't rushing. They were building anticipation through slow, calculated moves, as if each announcement was designed to attract a certain tier of talent. And when you line those names up, they all point toward one thing: star power, legacy, global appeal. Exactly the kind of environment that someone like Diana Taurasi would feel comfortable stepping into. The deeper fans looked, the more the puzzle pieces aligned. Candace Parker, being heavily involved, signaled that Project B wasn't just recruiting players. They were building an entirely new culture. Something more glamorous, more international, more competitive than the WNBA off-season options players currently have. And that raised a million questions. If Candace was involved at a business level, how many other legends were being courted privately? How many were already in the negotiation stage? Then speculation grew around other icons like Lauren Jackson and Cynthia Cooper. Both were followed by the league at the same time as Taurasi. Both have the level of influence Project B wants at launch. And both have hinted in recent interviews that they are keeping an open mind about new basketball opportunities popping up around the globe. When you combine the investor list with the synchronized legend follows, it no longer feels like random social media activity. It feels like a blueprint, a recruitment pattern. And every move looks designed to build a super league filled with names that would instantly overshadow many existing basketball markets. And if Project B is truly assembling a powerhouse roster of legends, it makes sense why the WNBA is starting to get uncomfortable. Because one addition in particular would send shockwaves through the sport. The moment Diana Taurasi finally spoke publicly about Project B, everything escalated. Reporters expected the usual response retired players give when asked about a comeback: a polite laugh, a quick denial, maybe a nostalgic comment about the old days. But Taurasi didn't do any of that. Instead, she offered an answer that stunned everyone. She called the idea of the new league interesting, praised the global opportunities it could create, and most importantly, refused to shut the door on playing again. That single moment set social media on fire, because athletes at her status don't leave the door cracked, unless there's already a genuine conversation happening behind the scenes. Her answer didn't sound like someone avoiding a topic. It sounded like someone weighing a real proposition. She acknowledged the growth of women's basketball worldwide. She acknowledged that money changes everything. She acknowledged that players now have more choices than ever. And then she added the line that made the entire WNBA pause. She said that the league being discussed in Saudi Arabia might be unconventional, but also perfect in a lot of ways. Not exactly what fans expected to hear from a fully retired legend. Things became even more suspicious when she mentioned that the league likely wouldn't even take place in Saudi Arabia. That's a detail only someone with insider knowledge would know. It suggests discussions about locations, logistics, and business models had already taken place. It suggests the legends being followed on social media might not just be symbolic gestures, but players and ambassadors being actively recruited for the launch. And then there's the biggest question people can't stop asking. Why is Taurasi, at 44, still working out at a high level? Why does she look physically prepared when she no longer needs to? Retirement looks different when a massive paycheck and a global league expansion are suddenly on the table. Her non-answer wasn't just vague, it was strategic. It hinted at possibilities she wasn't ready to confirm and opportunities she wasn't ready to reject. And the WNBA immediately felt the ripple, because if Taurasi is truly leaving the door open, it means something bigger is brewing than anyone expected. As the rumors gained momentum, the next major reveal came from the global blueprint quietly forming behind Project B. Early speculation suggested the league would be based in Saudi Arabia, which immediately drew controversy. But insiders quickly pushed back on that assumption. According to multiple hints scattered through interviews and investor statements, the real plan appears far more ambitious. Instead of being locked into one country, Project B seems designed as a roaming international league that plays across multiple major cities around the world. And that single shift changes everything for a legend like Diana Taurasi. No, one believed that a women's basketball league would pack stadiums in Saudi Arabia. But when you start talking Japan, Australia, China, France, Germany, Spain, and two major hubs split across the United States, suddenly the entire idea becomes realistic. Global tours, international expansion, new markets, fresh audiences. It starts to look less like a gamble and more like a billion-dollar entertainment product. Exactly the kind of disruptive force that could convince a retired superstar to return. Fans began connecting the dots. Lauren Jackson is Australian. Some investors have ties to Japan and China. European basketball federations have quietly expressed interest in off-season events that attract American talent. The pieces line up too neatly for this to be accidental. The league is being built as a world tour rather than a domestic operation. And every city rumored to be involved already has an established basketball culture capable of drawing large crowds. This is the environment Taurasi would thrive in. A stage that isn't limited by traditional WNBA structures. A league with global attention, massive funding, and none of the financial constraints that players have battled for decades. Suddenly, the idea of playing a final chapter in front of international audiences doesn't sound unrealistic. It sounds enticing, and the WNBA knows this. Losing a legend is one thing. Watching that legend join a rapidly growing super league with unlimited resources is another. Project B isn't just challenging tradition, it's challenging the WNBA's entire ecosystem, which leads to the real turning point. Because this league hasn't just followed legends on social media, they've now begun targeting names that could completely reshape the future of women's basketball. The turning point came when Project B suddenly expanded its circle of follows, adding names that made even longtime WNBA insiders sit up straight. One of the most shocking additions was Cynthia Cooper, a foundational figure in women's basketball and one of the most decorated champions in history. When Cooper appeared on the follow list, fans instantly understood that this wasn't about nostalgia. This was a deliberate recruitment of prestige, legacy, and credibility. And when you pair that with icons like Tina Thompson, Cheryl Miller, Alana Beard, and Lauren Jackson being followed simultaneously, it became impossible to dismiss what Project B was building. But the real alarm bell rang when fans noticed the league wasn't just following these legends quietly. The follows were synchronized. The same names were added on the same day across both Instagram and Twitter. That level of precision doesn't point to social media interns guessing who might generate attention. It suggests meetings, discussions, negotiations, and a unified strategy to assemble a roster that reads like a Hall of Fame program. This is where the speculation around Diana Taurasi intensified. Because if Project B truly aims to assemble the greatest collection of women's basketball talent ever seen in one place, there is no centerpiece more iconic than Taurasi. Her presence instantly legitimizes any league. Her legacy elevates the brand. Her competitive fire, even in retirement, makes her the perfect face for a new global movement. And Project B seems to know exactly what it's doing by putting her name at the heart of this recruitment pattern. As the list of legendary follows grew, fans started asking a bigger question. What does this mean for Unrivaled, the 3v3 league heavily pushed by Ija Wilson and Breena Stewart? The answer became clearer with every new project we follow. If Diana Taurasi, Cynthia Cooper, Lauren Jackson, and other global legends even consider joining a 5v5 Super League, Unrivaled's momentum collapses instantly. The comparison isn't even close. One league offers a global tour, billionaire investors, historic icons, and full-court basketball. The other offers a gimmick. And with so many legends circling around Project B, the WNBA suddenly finds itself watching a new superpower being formed right in front of them, and the biggest shock is still ahead. What really sent the WNBA world into panic mode was the realization that Diana Taurasi has never actually closed the door on playing again. Even after announcing her retirement, she continued training, not casually, not occasionally, but consistently, enough that teammates, former opponents, and even coaches noticed she was still in elite physical condition. Most retired players slow down, shift into family life, business ventures, or media roles. Taurasi didn't. She kept the same habits, the same routine, and the same drive that defined her career, and that raised a serious question. Why would someone with nothing left to prove still train like a professional athlete? Her answer during recent interviews only added fuel to the fire. Instead of laughing off rumors, she openly acknowledged that there is an amount of money she would play for. That statement alone created chaos. Because when the conversation shifts from retirement to numbers, it means the possibility isn't fantasy, it's math. And when you're talking about a league backed by billionaires, that math gets very real very fast. People started speculating what that number might be. A one-year contract worth several million, a multi-year deal structured like an ambassador program, a combined playing and brand partnership role. Whatever the figure is, Project B can afford it, and the timing is suspicious. The league follows her. She openly praises the concept. She admits she still works out. She refuses to deny the idea of returning. These are not coincidences. They paint a picture of someone who is already deep in consideration, someone who is intrigued enough to keep themselves ready just in case the right offer appears at the right time. Meanwhile, inside the WNBA, whispers are growing louder that losing Taurasi to Project B would be a huge blow. She is more than a player. She is a symbol, a bridge between generations, and one of the most influential figures the sport has ever produced. Her return, especially to a competing global league, would ignite a wave of attention that the WNBA cannot afford to lose, and when fans realized another domino was about to fall, the entire conversation shifted again. The next domino came when fans discovered that Project B wasn't just following legends for symbolic value. They were following players at different stages of their careers, from rising stars to recently retired icons, all in the same strategic pattern. This created a new theory that changed the entire conversation. Project B might not just be recruiting retired GOATs like Taurasi, Cooper, and Jackson. They might be building a mixed-era Super League where past, present, and future players collide on one stage. And if that's the plan, then the WNBA is facing a threat far bigger than anyone initially realized. When fans examined the full follow list of Project B across both platforms, they noticed a quiet but shocking consistency. Every person followed had either historical significance, international appeal, or deep ties to global basketball markets. This wasn't random outreach. This was deliberate talent mapping. Names like Lauren Jackson suggested an Australian hub. Cynthia Cooper hinted at a foundational old-school identity. And younger, modern players signaled that Project B wants continuity, not a one-off nostalgia tour. Some insiders even whispered that Project B is intentionally recreating something the WNBA struggled with for decades, uniting eras under one banner. Imagine younger players learning directly from legends. Imagine rookies playing alongside GOATs. Imagine markets across the world being able to promote a lineup featuring athletes from multiple generations. It's cinematic, it's marketable, and it's exactly the type of vision billion-dollar investors love. Meanwhile, people close to Taurasi began hinting that she misses the competitive fire more than fans realize. She has nothing left to prove in the WNBA, but a brand new league, a global tour, a chance to be part of something groundbreaking. That's a different story. Project B could give her a fresh stage, a new narrative, and a legacy that extends beyond Phoenix and the WNBA. All of this created a ripple effect across fans, analysts, and even current players. The idea of Taurasi stepping onto an international court again, wearing a new jersey, under a league backed by billionaires, suddenly didn't seem unrealistic. It looked possible, it looked intentional, and the next wave of information would push the speculation into full-blown shock. The final wave of chaos erupted when fans realized Project B's strategy was not only coordinated but accelerating. Each week, the league added new follows, new investors, and new signals that something huge was unfolding behind closed doors. Then came the moment that sent shockwaves through the entire basketball world. Analysts noticed that many of the players Project B followed had direct ties to Diana Taurasi's career. Former teammates, longtime rivals, international icons, she once battled on the world stage. It was as if the league was building a constellation around her, piece by piece, waiting for the final star to fall into place. At the same time, insiders pointed out that Project B is assembling names with enough credibility to instantly overpower existing off-season leagues, with investors pouring in and global cities rumored to be hosting games. Project B is positioning itself as the premier destination for elite women's basketball. This put enormous pressure on the WNBA because once a new league gains enough momentum, it becomes extremely difficult to stop players from jumping ship, especially if the money is generational. That fear grew louder when reports surfaced that some WNBA team executives were privately frustrated about the growing influence of outside leagues. They've already watched players spend entire seasons overseas to chase better salaries, but a global league launching in the offseason, backed by billionaires, offering full-court basketball and celebrity-level exposure, that's a threat unlike anything before. Suddenly, Taurasi's potential return wasn't just a feel-good comeback story. It became a symbol of a shifting sports landscape. Fans could sense the tension. Analysts could see the writing on the wall. And players began posting cryptic reactions online, from emojis to subtle comments about the future of the sport. Every sign pointed to the same conclusion. Project B is not playing around. They're building something massive. And Diana Taurasi's involvement could be the tipping point that changes the direction of women's basketball forever. By the time this realization spread, one thing became undeniable. If Taurasi chooses to step back onto the court, she's not joining just any league. She'd be joining a movement. And for the WNBA, that possibility is more frightening than anything that has happened in years. Diana Taurasi's name swirling around Project B isn't just a rumor anymore. It's a warning shot. Every coordinated follow, every investor reveal, and every carefully worded answer from Taurasi points to a basketball world on the edge of a massive shift. Whether she steps onto that court again or not, the fact that the possibility exists has already changed the conversation. Project B is rising fast, the WNBA is feeling the pressure, and fans are witnessing the start of a new era. If Taurasi truly returns, it won't just be a comeback. It will be a redefining moment for the entire sport.